look at some of the matchups that have been set for the NBA playoffs because we have some real good matchups. And I would be remiss if I started anywhere other than New York City, where they'll be facing your Detroit Pistons in the 3-6 matchup in the East. Scott, we're going to start with you because you spent a lot of time with the Knicks and you've helped build this team into what it is today. And I feel like you'll be a little bit less biased than Mr. Armstrong over there when it comes to talking about the Pistons.
Nah.
Just a little, just a little bit though. Just a little bit.
This has the makings of a very fascinating series. And here's why I say that. If you want to take the experience factor, the experience component of the series, obviously that's going to be in the Knicks' favor. And this group has been together, but Karl Anthony Towns has a lot of playoff experience. Jalen Brunson has a lot of playoff experience. Mikal Bridges has a lot. Josh Hart, OG Anunoby. So from that standpoint there, in my opinion, and having home court, you're going to favor the Knicks. However, the regular season does mean something. The Pistons beat this Knicks team 3 out of 4 times this year, and just as recent as a week ago. Now, it's the fascinating part of this series for me is going to be the matchups. And let's start at the guard position, where Cade Cunningham, in my opinion, is having an all-NBA season. Jalen Brunson is probably going to be all-NBA as well. But you got one guy that's 6'1", another guy that's 6'6". What we've seen when Jalen Brunson has had some difficulty has been with some size and athleticism that guards him throughout the course of the game. So the Pistons will have the luxury not only to start Cade Cunningham on him, but probably you will see Asar Thompson on him even more, along with Ron Holland. How does that play out over the course of a 7-game series? That will be fascinating to watch. Now, Brunson is tough. He's competitive. He's going to be trying to figure it out. And again, he's got more experience. But they have the size and athleticism, they meaning Detroit, on that position. And then at the center position, again, you got Karl Anthony Towns, who's extremely skilled, can score the basketball with the best of them. But you've got 2 young, athletic, big people in Detroit, in Stewart and Jalen Duren, who are unafraid. That's 6 fouls, and they're going to play him extremely physical, which is not really Cat's game. Cat is much more of a finesse game. So in terms, I believe this Pistons team is maybe slightly tougher right now, more physical than the Knicks are, and that may surprise you. But again, we talked about that earlier. The Knicks added skill with the acquisitions they made in the offseason, but I think they lost a little of the edge with Randall leaving and with DiVincenzo leaving. But with all that said, I'm still gonna lean in on the experience, and I'm gonna favor the Knicks slightly in this series. But I think this series is gonna go 6-7 games. It's gonna be a fascinating one to watch.
Yeah, the Knicks added PJ Tucker. Maybe not so much for his on-court production, but for that veteran toughness that he gave to the Milwaukee Bucks on their run to the championship, where they traded him at the deadline. And he's made an impact immediately. When you're talking about the matchups with the point guard matchups, I feel like the Knicks will have Jalen Brunson guarding Asar Thompson anyway, because he's not as much of a scoring threat as the rest of the guys in that Pistons lineup. Which then, I think ideally, if you're the Knicks, you'd want OG Anunoby guarding Cade Cunningham, who could really cause him some problems because he's a big, strong, physical defender. And so you're not too worried about the cross matches there and whatnot. However, Mr. Armstrong.
Well, but you do. Let me just say one thing: you will have to worry though. You got to keep Asar Thompson off the glass and see that Jalen Brunson. So that's what I'm saying. It's going to be fascinating to watch this. Who do they put Brunson on? Obviously, when I believe Hardaway or Beasley, if one of them do start, that's probably where they're going to put him, because those guys hang out on the perimeter more and they're less threats in terms of going to the offensive glass. that's where they're going to try to play Brunson much, in my
Yeah.
opinion.
I think that Thompson and Josh Hart having the undersized rebounding battle will be one for the ages in this playoff series because, they're both smaller guys who are active on the boards. But BJ, I know you've been waiting all week to talk about your Pistons. So tell us why you think the Pistons are making it to the second round of the NBA playoffs.
First, shout out to the Detroit Pistons in the season that they had. The regular season, they were simply incredible. I mean, it's one of the more amazing stories and turnarounds. Has to be in the history of the NBA to
Yes.
go from where they were just a year ago and to say now they are the sixth seed,
Yes.
and they are playing against the New York Knicks. The fan in me, I'm rooting for the Pistons. Make no doubt about it. And what they've done. They haven't even, he's not emerging now. He's there. Cade Cunningham is a star. He has the potential to be the best player on the floor in this series.
Yes. No
He
question.
really does. Okay. But the key word, he has the potential. If I'm the New York Knicks, I'm going to be very cautious because this Detroit team poses all of the problems and
They
has
beat
the
them
capability.
in their last 3 matchups in a row: April, January, and December.
Okay, they are, first of all, they're young, they're athletic, they're big, and they're playing with house money now. Okay, and they have nothing to lose. When you say no pressure, they have no pressure. This Detroit Pistons team, they have to find one thing. They have to find big momentum because if big momentum starts rolling down the hill, this team has the capability.
You saying if they steal game 1, it can get out of hand?
Well, again, they have no experience. You still game
Right.
one.
Oh, yeah, that's huge.
It only matters if you can, protect home court. So there's a lot of work to be done here, but there are a lot of stories that could come out of New York if this thing goes sideways. Okay, if this thing goes sideways,
Yeah.
I know who we will be talking about for the next week and a half if this goes sideways, because that is going to be a circus. So let's see what happens. I'm gonna say the New York Knicks because I think the New York Knicks and their locker room understand what this means. But if Detroit comes out and plays with that level of just free spirit and they go back home to Detroit and they are able to get momentum just rolling, and all of a sudden Dern is dunking and my man Beasley is doing the shimmy and Cade is posting people, this could be a problem. Okay. And the reason it's going to be a problem is because we know this coming into the series. There's going to be a limited amount of people who are going to play in the series. For the New York Knicks. Okay. It's not like
bench is going.
we know the bench is already is going to be, heightened, or limited. However
Short,
you want to look at it.
It's gonna be
Short, I think is a better word. We know that coming in. Now, can you imagine if they go down 1-1 in game 3 in Detroit or 0-2 or whatever the case may be? This is going to be tough. Okay, this is going to be tough. But I think it's going to be entertaining. Certainly we'll be watching.
Yes.
And but I'm going to pick the Knicks because of the experience. I mean, they have the experience, but this has the potential to be one of those, Scott, this matchup this is a bad matchup. This is all wrong for the New York Knicks. This is all wrong.
The playoffs are all about matchups. And I think a couple months ago, I said on this show that I think the Pistons could win in the first round because I kind of had a look at the standings and projected where they are. And I don't know if both of you guys are taking a safe bet with the Knicks, but as an adopted nephew of the city of Detroit, I'm going to say it's Detroit versus everybody. And I'm going to roll with the Pistons on this one. What up, though? What up, though?
Hey, man.
I'll have my Pistons gear on, but I'm just, playoffs is this is a different animal. Everyone's going to point to the regular season, but this is the playoffs.
The tension in the Garden for game one
One.
is going to be thick. I can tell you that much.
Oh, yeah.
For game one, that very first game, and BJ knows this, having won 2 titles, when you're the road team, you put a lot into going in and stealing that game one because there's so much more pressure on the home team.
Yes.
That first game, so much more pressure on the home team.
Yeah.
And one or two things happens with the home team. Number one, they come out and they play extremely tight,
right?
All the way through, or they just, everything's clicking and they run, they can run you out of the gym. There's usually not any much in between.
If I were in the locker room with the Detroit Pistons, the very first quarter to me is going to set the tone for the rest of the series. If they win that first quarter, you're sending the message, we are here to fight.
Well,
if they just win the first quarter.
Did you see what I sent you yesterday, BJ? A quote from PJ Tucker.
No.
It was a quote after they played the Pistons. Okay. And this is what he said. He says, they just out-toughed us. I just feel like down in the trenches like that in the playoffs this year, they're not calling nothing. The refs are letting a lot of stuff go both ways. With that happening, guys got to play different. We got to play different. We got to toughen up. It's more physical. We've got to toughen up. And then I read a report from a reporter who was asking PJ Tucker, you just got to the team, right? But in every huddle, you're in the middle talking to everyone. Why are you doing that as the new guy? He says, well, no one else was doing it when I got here. So I've had to shoulder that responsibility like I did in Milwaukee and so on and so forth. But that is a little bit of a red flag for me, the fact that, well, you guys were having huddles and no one was really being vocal and talking for 90% of the season until PJ Tucker emerged. And then PJ Tucker talking about the physicality. He's not going to be a guy getting a lot of minutes in this series. There's only so much physicality he can give you off the bench, right? Mm-hmm. So we're going to ask the guys who are out there to toughen up at this stage. That quote it struck something in my brain. I was just thinking, come on, guys. What do you mean you got to toughen up? You're supposed to be tough. You're NBA players. This is the playoffs. Like, what are we doing? So
the last game, it was clear. The last game that they beat the Knicks in.
And we know
the Pistons were the tougher team.
We know the Pistons ain't got no problem with toughness. 1 through 5, they ain't got no problem with toughness, except for maybe when Giannis blocks Malik Beasley's 3-point attempt. There's a little not toughness, but apart from that, they're a tough squad. So I wouldn't be surprised. This one's 50-50 for me. I wouldn't be surprised with anything that happens.
What we know about this Pistons group, this group is keenly aware of the city that they represent, and it's a very tough city, and B, they know the history of this franchise and the franchises and the teams that were champions. That group that I was a part of back in the 2000s that won a championship, and then the Bad Boys prior to that. You know that. And to me, when I watch them play, as a group, they are embracing that identity.